Alright, we're here for round one with blue-red control. Let's go and take a look at our opener. This one, not so good. Unfortunately, if we had a second land, we'd actually have a really interesting decision on whether or not we Magmatic Insight on turn one. I generally tend to not cast it when I only have two lands, so we're gonna throw this one back, take a look at our six. Oh, it's basically the same hand, except we have two lands, so definitely keepable. Opponent, oh, looks like he also mulliganed. He's down to 5. We are going to bottom this Magmatic Insight. We already have a Tormenting Voice, so we want to try to either just like hit a few more land drops or find some beefier stuff. I'm going to probably lead off here with Jace over the Thing in the Ice. Alright, there is a beefier thing. Hope we draw Drownyard Temple into another land off of the Jace loot. And then I probably just go bring back Drownyard, untap, play Thing, Tormenting Voice. Alright, looks like we're playing against Bant Coco. Now this deck actually operates pretty well on 4, so let's go ahead and loot. Right, Fumarole, so I think our plan here is just go with Thing in the Ice and Fumarole, so we want to pitch probably the Chandra. The Fall of the Titans actually can do a weird thing in a few turns where we get to go like axe a creature into Fall of the Titans to other creatures. And the Chandra is a bit on the weaker side for our current draw since we're kind of low on lands and we're going to need most of our resources to keep up with him. Or her. His name is Styling Chris. I'm going to assume it's a he. Alright, flip this here Duskwatch Recruiter. So if we block, he has the potential to Dramoko's Command to fight and kill the Thing in the Ice, but he can't kill both, and at the moment I'm not really sure which one I'd rather him kill. I think I'd rather save the 2 or 3 damage and give him the option as opposed to not. Plus, it's not in my wheelhouse to give my opponent free damage. That's just not something I do. I ain't about getting bluffed. Yeah, so him killing the Thing in the Ice is fine for us. We can actually go ahead and flip our Jace this turn. If we go Tormenting Voice, pitch, Axe, loot. I think I'm going to do that. Really hope we hit a Fiery Temper here. That'd be tight. Definitely wanted a land. I don't really want to Axe as creature this turn. But I suppose we could. I think we just want to pitch Fall of the Titans. We want to get our goggles online as soon as possible. It's possible we should have discarded something besides the Jace, but I guess it doesn't change too much. We don't want him to get a free card off of that. And I think I'm going to need both the goggles and the Tormenting Voice to actually win this game. I really wish it was just a Fire Impulse, but what is? Clue? Clue token? So we can go tick up on the Tireless Tracker, or we can go tick down and kill it with a Lightning Axe, but that seems pretty loose. It's one of the downsides of Lightning Axe is if you don't draw one of the cards that it goes really well with, it starts to look pretty awkward. Our Jace is about to get pressured a bit, and I think we want the land and the goggles that we have in hand, so I think we actually want to just tick down, pitch the Voice in hand. And then we're going to let our Jace die, but it was very likely to take a giant chunk over the next few turns and not be able to tick down anyway. So I'm actually fine with this. So he gets to trade with our Jace. Next turn we get to go Goggles, Lightning Axe, and hopefully we can draw something that combos well with the goggles. Once we get one of our engine cards online, like Pyromancer's Goggles, a lot of our other cards just end up getting a lot better. And there's definitely one. I don't really want to axe this turn, but I'm fine getting the goggles into play. And we can reassess based on, what he does. If he just goes crack 2 clues, that's fine. If he goes collect a company into a couple other creatures, we may need to think about using the axe to kill two things so that we can save a good bit of damage. This is especially true if he collected companies into a Jace, which can rebuy the collected company. But Bounding Crassus, not big enough of a threat for me to care too much. So my opponent messaged me. I didn't realize the screen might get a little cut off here. Sorry. For the deck tech, I had it set just right, but the way Magic on the Line works, it opens a bunch of new windows every time. So sorry if my hand got cut off initially. Hopefully this is good enough. All right. So yeah, like I said, we don't really want to axe these two because the Tormenting Voice is pretty valuable over the next few turns. So I think we can afford to get hit for 6. If he had attacked for 9, then things might have been a little different, but all right. Well, yeah, let's just go. We'll go past turn and we'll go axe temper, and we can actually activate Fumarole block and go axe temper. Or we could just go temper. I don't hate that either. I guess we'd rather go axe. We'll just pay the 5. The thing about axe, so I kind of want to keep the temper to just copy straight up off of the goggles. So yeah, we're at 12, so we're not super high on life, but I think that we'll be okay. We definitely want to draw just like a Fire Impulse would be great, because then we don't have to put enough, like, too much pressure on the stuff we have going on right now. So yeah. So when I say pressure on the things we have going on right now, basically a lot of our cards like Lightning Axe and Tormenting Voice force us to have another card in hand. Here, I think we're just gonna kill both those creatures. And again, wait a turn for the Tormenting Voice. Since we do want to draw 4 with it, if he just takes the turn off to draw a few cards, I think that would be nice. I'm going to hold on to the Fumarole, I think, to discard in case we draw something good next turn that we want to hold on to. But I think we did want to kill the Jace before he got to loot with it. Digging a little deeper is not great, and it's pretty hard to actually deal with the backside of a Jace. Yeah, if he just pops 2 clues, or maybe pops a clue passes and goes for a Coco, we're not quite DOB or anything like that. Maybe he'll go pop a clue, play Crassus. So let's go Tormenting Voice, and we're going to pitch this Fumarole. Draw 4. Probably just going to draw 4 lands since we have already gone through a ton of spells. Well, I was kind of joking. That's not very fun. So I do kind of need to draw something. So I'm going to go ahead and pitch another Tormented Voice. We did draw a Magmatic and a Fire Impulse. So we're going to play the Mountain. Probably get hit for a decent amount here. Next turn, try to draw 4 more. Try to stabilize. If he doesn't put up too much of an offense here, we may just get back Drownyard Temple, because the extra mana might end up mattering in the long game. There's a good chance this game ends up going like another 5 or 6 turns. One of the problems, I think, with the current standard, or I guess problems, is that too many Ojitize command. Okay. So we got back Duskwatch Recruiter. I could just kill this now, because he could get virtually 2 creatures off of it. So I think I just want to kill that, since next turn I'm probably just going to draw 4 with Magmatic. Wonder when he's just going to start playing Naked Reflector Mages. Eee. Ooh-wee. That's pretty bad. Now we need to draw an axe. He's gonna... Well, I thought he was gonna hit us for 5. Maybe he has, like, more O commands, more collected companies. Yeah, it's the thing about this Coco deck. It can just go super late into the game, just super deep. Yeah. See, if I really wish we had drawn some of these like Drowning Our Temples or just like lands early that we could have pitched. We, had to like Lightning Axe and discard actual spells, which was not great. We do have the potential to block here with Wandering Fumarole, so I guess I'll just hold up that. Pretty surprised he didn't hit me for 5, but I guess that means he's just going to cast either Company or Bounding Crassus. Or Avacyn. Avacyn's also bad. So he's going to be threatening lethal here with Avacyn, Sylvan Advocate, and Lumbering Falls. So we either have to block with Jace or Fumarole, or maybe both if he has Reflector Mage as well. So probably going to block with Fumarole since I can go axe both these creatures. We're going to go down to 4. You're in some hot water, for sure. Your Reflector Mages are Jace, we're probably just dead. But I think he would have done it pre-combat. Okay, start with that. That's actually a really good draw, assuming that his last card is not Dromoka's Command. His last card is Dromoka's Command. Could be in a little trouble. I may want to Magmatic Insight right now. Although, we may just want to do it first in case we, if he has the Dromcom, we want to be able to reassess, I suppose. So this one target Avacyn, so this one's going to target Advocate. We have Thing in the Ice to block. And we can play a Shivan Reef to potentially block with Fumarole, though we do take a damage. I think I like that a little better than playing a tapped Fumarole, because if he doesn't do anything, we can actually just get back something. Crack a Clue? Tight. Alright, so yeah, we can block with Fumarole, or we can get back one of the 2 Drowning Our Temples. And then we didn't want a Magmatic Insight after he didn't have anything, because we want to make sure we can draw an extra card if we desperately need to. Here comes Reflector. Right on time. And if I am able to trade Wandering Fumarole with a Lumbering Falls, I would definitely like to. When we're playing defense, we can't always afford to hold up, 5 mana on defense, so. Yep. It's my most favorite thing in the world. Alright, well, depending on what we draw, we are probably just going to try to draw 4 cards. Can't replay this Thing in the Ice. Fire Impulse is pretty nice. Extra Goggles, not so much. Oh, we forgot to bring her back a Drowning Our Temple. Dang it. We could play a second Goggles and then hold up the potential for double Fire Impulse, but I don't think that's as good as just holding up Fumarole for blocks. I'm really hoping he doesn't have a Coco or another Avacyn. I guess we could have played the second Goggles to play around Avacyn. That probably would have been decent. Yup. Let's see what he hits. We can still just go Impulse, block with block with Fumarole. It's on a mold of 5, by the way. This deck has a lot of staying power. Yep, alright, we're just dead. Void Grafter. That was interesting to see. Alright, so this matchup is just super attrition based. As you can see early, we had to pitch some of our better cards to try to make sure that we smooth our draw to cast our goggles. We pitched a Chandra. We drew pretty bad when we started drawing 4 cards, but I think that's just kind of happens sometimes with the deck, and there's not a ton you can do about it. I don't think we want Fevered Visions. We definitely need a lot of our stuff to actually, take care of his creatures, and flooding him with resources I think is pretty bad because they usually have like things to actually do with those resources. I don't like Fever Visions in general against any deck that just is mostly creatures, because that just means that's more creatures you actually have to kill. Our current sideboard setup is pretty bad for actually dealing with Band Company, which I think is probably a mistake. But there aren't a ton of things we can actually change to our deck that, like, I don't actually want to cut any of the cards in my deck right now. Thing in the Ice, I think, is probably the worst of the bunch. I think Jace flipping is pretty good, relatively easy, but flipping Thing in the Ice is pretty difficult, and even if I am, they do have Collect a Company, they do have Bounding Crassus, as well as various morph cards and Avacyn. So bouncing all their creatures isn't even that big of a deal a lot of times. And since I'm killing most of their creatures, I'm not even usually bouncing all that much. Thing in the Ice is not great in the matchup, so maybe I'll just bring in like 2 Dispel and 2 Negate. It's likely he's going to have some counter spells of his own to try to keep me off of goggles and whatnot. I don't really like running Volley. We already have a bunch of Fire Impulse, so maybe the running Volley could be a 4th Impulse, and we could just bring in like 2 Dispel, a Negate, and a 4th Impulse, but we'll just go with what we got for now. Alright, this hand is not exciting, but it's fine. We have a way to stop a Coco, or potentially fight over resolving, a Goggles or a Chandra or something later on, as well as just a bunch of removal spells. So it's going to be pretty tough for him to get any traction early. We do have a draw where it looks like we're probably going to end up playing the Drowned Yard Temple, which I don't like, but it's not a huge deal. I'm definitely okay with that. Anything that dies to Impulse here is pretty good for me. Alright. Magmatic Insight or... Okay. So we don't have to play the Drowned Yard Temple just yet. We have like one more, or maybe 2 more windows. We might not play a land next turn to try to draw a Magmatic or Tormenting Voice. Or a Jace, I suppose. So I think I'm just going to Fiery Temper this here to use my mana more efficiently. It's possible that the Impulse ends up being really important later on, and the same can be said for Fiery Temper as well. Alright, we're going to wait one more turn to play the Drowned Yard Temple. If we draw something next turn that can discard it, then we're almost certainly going to do that. Alright, just a bunch of 1-for-1s, and he got a clue, so he's actually ahead of us on cards at the moment, which is pretty bad. Alright, we're going to go and play it now. Tireless Tracker is quite annoying. Alright, him not having another land here is pretty sweet for us, since he's not threatening to get the Advocate out of range of a removal spell. And the fact that he did not main phase the popping of the clue to try to hit a land drop signifies that he very likely has Dromoka's Command and or Negate. So we have to be conscious of those when trying to maneuver our spells. And it's possible that we don't even want to try to bother with Negate and we just want Thing in the Ice. So if we win this game, we'll probably reassess. Because right now these cards are just looking quite bad. Whereas Thing in the Ice could be pretty good. You know, just gaining me some traction and preventing some damage. So Fall of the Titans here, just 1-1 splits, not very good. I'm gonna go ahead and main phase try to kill this Sylvan Advocate and probably just dispel whatever he tries to protect it with. Since if he plays one more land, it's going to be a 4/5 and basically out of range for us to deal with. And since he's a little low on mana, he can't double spell to protect it either. Yeah, these are the kind of draws that are unimpressive. And like last game, I think we did a lot of really powerful stuff, and our draws off of our forked, draw twos were not great. If they were a little bit better, we could have maybe been able to win the previous game, but that's not good. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I think versions that don't play Thing in the Ice, or versions that are trying to not play Jason Thing in the Ice, just end up looking a lot worse. Because right now, if we had more things to do early with our mana, like we would probably still be at 20 life. That would have tapped our Thing in the Ice, but we still would have had the potential to flip it and bounce all this stuff. Nahiri, I think, is a great card. Neonate as well, but they're just not overly impressive. As far as like mana investment is concerned. The deck already has a bunch of expensive stuff going on. Alright, so here we can try to go like negate your play or dispel your play, and then Fall of the Titans, kill 2 creatures. We can also go like Goggles, dispel, but then we're dead to a land. If we go Goggles, dispel, he's going to fight over it, or he's just going to try to kill me with a Coco. And if he has dispel, then we are dead. Mostly dead. So I think we just have to wait. Maybe try to block with Ephemeral on something if he doesn't do anything. If he has another Bounding Crassus, I think we're just dead. That's the problem with this deck against the Bant Coco deck sometimes, is that they can kind of overwhelm you with all these flash threats, and there's not a ton you can do about it. Radiant Flames would obviously be very good, and it's worth consideration. I didn't talk about it much in the deck tech, but we're just dead. So maybe reevaluate. The negates look pretty bad, so I think 2 dispels is probably enough, and maybe just leave in something in the ice. But yeah, so Radiant Flame's obviously very good against Bant Coco and these White Weenie decks, but I think one of the draws to this deck is just how fluid the mana base is. We had 11 or 12 duels. Draw Near Temple is pretty good with a lot of our draw 2s. But there are some draws that kind of look like this. We killed some stuff. We could have played Goggles, but then we still would have just died to a million Bounding Crassus, and there's not a ton we can do about it without building our deck in a completely different way. We could try a version that has Evolving Wilds, and then you could play some number of Sunken Ruins or Sunken Hollow, Smoldering Marsh, things like that. But then the more you change your deck like that, the more you're just going to have a bunch of lands that start coming into play tapped too often. And even though you have Radiant Flames as like a catch-up card, the deck just plays out significantly differently. So, yeah, I mean, there are definitely merits to playing Radiant Flames, but I'm not sure yet if it is worth doing so. I'm very curious to see what happens this weekend at the Pro Tour and how people kind of change the deck to fight all these Bant decks and all these White Weenie decks. But yeah, this was not super great of a draw, so hopefully next match will go a little bit better.